When you begin to study computer science, it is essential to understand the basic terminology that is associated with computers. Because these terms are going to be used again and again, and it is important to have a good understanding of these terms at the initial stage itself. Let's say I tell you that I'm going to generate the marks card for your entire class. In order to generate the marks card, I do require the marks for each subject. Based on the marks for each subject, I can give you your percentage or your rank in the class. So, data is or are the raw facts. They could include images, they could include numbers, they could include audios, they could include video files and so on. So, I take your marks, which is the raw facts or the data, then I process it and I provide you your percentage or your rank in the class. The percentage or rank constitutes your information. So basically what I did here is I took the raw data which happened to be your marks. I calculated or processed the raw data and give you your percentage and rank. Now your percentage and rank constitutes your information. Now data itself is not very useful in real life unless the data is processed into information, because once you process the data, the information gives us meaning of the data, it helps us interpret the raw data, and most importantly it assists us in decision making. Let's say I conduct a test and I take the average performance in the test. So based on the average performance across multiple classes, I can find out which class is not doing well and I can put more efforts. So it is helping me in making decisions. So there are a number of examples of data and information. Let me give you one more simple example. Let us say I get the heights of all the students of the entire sections of the entire school. Then the heights of all the students constitutes the raw facts or the data. Then I can write a small program which gives me the average height for each class. For example, average height of students of first standard, average height of students of second standard, average height of students of third standard, and so on. So using this average height, I can do certain decision making or analysis. So the average height constitutes information, the raw heights constitutes the data. Now, another terminology which is very frequently used when you're studying computers is the word hardware. Hardware is the electronic circuitry associated with the modern computer. It could be your keyboard, it could be your speaker, it could be your central processing unit, it could be your memory, it could be your hard disk, it could be your printer, scanner, and so on. So the physical electronic parts of a computer are referred to as the hardware of the computer. The hardware performs tasks based on the directions or instructions provided by the software. So if you look at this particular diagram, although it may not be very clear because of some of those tiny parts, but it should give you a broad idea. This green thing is known as the motherboard. This chip here is your central processing unit or your CPU. This thing here coming up is your memory. These are extension slots, in the sense if you want to add a video card, you will put it onto this particular box. Now the computer takes an AC and converts it into direct supply or DC, which has to be the power used by all the electronic parts. So this phi stands for the switch mode power supply or SMPS. This is your scanner. This is your DVD or optical drive. This is an example of your hard disk. This and this is your speaker. This is your monitor. This is what is on the monitor is two types of software. One could be something like Windows or Linux, which is known as the system software, and another could be Microsoft Word browser, which is known as the application software. So this is your keyboard, your mouse, this is your printer, and this could be your external hard drive. Suppose you need more storage space, you can have one more hard drive here. So this should give you an understanding of all the different hardware parts that we are going to commonly encounter. So I would recommend you, when you run through the notes, the same diagram is provided to you in the notes. Try to understand and identify visually through all the points given here what are the different hardware parts that we are going to commonly encounter. Once we understand what is a hardware, now let's try to make sense of software. A lot of times you frequently think hardware is something you see and software is something you cannot see. That's not the right definition. If you write something like that in exam, if you write like that, then you will get marks which you cannot see. So please do not write hardware is something you see and software is something you cannot see. Okay? Hardware is the electronic circuitry, which examples are your keyboard, speaker, mouse, CPU, and so on. It's the physical parts of a computer which work on the instructions of your software. Now let's understand what is software and the different types of software. So maybe I can put this in the center. Okay, let me put this here and cover this up. So the first thing is, what is software? The combination of data and instructions is the software. Don't think only programs and instructions is software, because without data you cannot write any meaningful program. Ultimately, because of the data you are able to write some code. So the combination of instructions plus data constitutes your software. It is software which instructs the hardware to do things. For example, the software instruction may tell the printer, go ahead and print the page. The software instruction may tell the computer, copy a file, delete a file. So it is the software which gets things done from a hardware. Now, you will hear two terms when you are talking about software. One is something called as system software and one is called as application software. We are going to discuss about system software and application software, I believe in chapter 4 or 5 in some amount of detail, but it's a good idea to give you a little bit example of what a system software is. The best way to understand what a system software is, think of software like operating system, compilers. Example of an operating system is Windows, Linux. Compilers could be your Turbo C compiler, okay, your GCC compiler and so on. So system software is a type of software. In order to write it, you need to have detailed understanding of the hardware of the machine or the hardware architecture. Generally, system software, or in fact system software, majorly tries to control and manage the hardware operations of the computer. It works closely or talks to the hardware very frequently. You can think of system software as a software which can be providing services to other softwares or users. For example, suppose I write a software to generate the marks card of your entire school. I am going to use the facility provided by the system software, which happens to be the operating system and compilers, to provide you the software program and generate the marks card. So system software is a software which provides services to other users or softwares. It talks to hardware very closely, it interacts with hardware very closely, and it is providing service to the other softwares of the system. Now, what is application software? Application software is a software which is designed to perform a specific single task for you. Like as I told you, let's say I want to perform the task of giving you the marks card of your school. So in this case, that's an example of an application software. Your browser is an application software example. Then if you want to generate the list of all the items in your school, that's an example of an application software. Using Microsoft Word, using Microsoft Excel, database management systems, these are all examples of application software. The thing which differentiates application software from system software is application software, while developing or using, does not require us to have a knowledge of the hardware or the architecture of the computer. If you just know how to write the program, you can easily write an application software. So think of it like this. The best way to remember system software, think of an example like operating system. Application software, think of Word, Excel, browser and so on. So these are for doing specific individual tasks. These are more general purpose in nature.